good afternoon, and welcome to our announcement for the Saints Hall of Fame for the induction class of 2024. On behalf of our board of directors, some of whom are here today, and our media selection committee, which does a terrific job of not only nominating but also electing our Hall of Famers each and every year, I want to thank them too. Many of them are in the room today, and they take this very seriously, and we appreciate that very much. Let me tell you, first of all, that the actual induction will not take place till the football season, which is par for the course. That'll happen for a Saints home game weekend for the induction weekend itself. That date is still to be determined, waiting on NFL dates to be able to determine that. But today is the announcement, so that very clearly is what we're doing here today. We'd like to also recognize all the New Orleans Saints officials here today, starting with Gail Benson, who wanted to be here, and she got here, and we really appreciate that because she cares deeply about the inductees, but cares deeply about this organization and this city. Also want to salute Mickey Loomis, who couldn't be here today, Dennis Lauscha, who's here today, who has been incredibly supportive. Thanks to all the vice presidents. I know Mike Stanfield's here, Greg Bensel, my longtime friend. Ed Lang is here today. Great to see my friend Michael Parrington earlier. Everyone. And of course, last but not least, your head coach, Dennis Allen, who is a class act. He's an easy guy to pull for because he's a good man, aside from the fact that he can coach. And I think we're fixing to find out that in greater fashion this coming season. We're off to our annual events in Mississippi after this, which we do every year. 3 different events over there with a reception, an auction, a golf tournament, and then our game at the AA baseball game with our 30 former players that will be in attendance. And that will be a lot of fun, as it always is, as we try to continue to maintain great connection with our former players. So with that, let's just get to the matter at hand here today. So, Media Selection Committee meets on an annual basis. They take this very seriously, as I mentioned, and nominations take place, and then great discussions take place, sometimes very spirited at that. Well, this year, that was not the case whatsoever. This year was about the easiest thing we've ever done. And we don't talk about votes other than when votes are unanimous, or in this particular case, by acclamation. And each and every year, based on our bylaws, we induct 1 or 2 people into the Saints Hall of Fame. Well, the committee felt very clearly that there should be 1 this year to stand alone. The accomplishments are many, and I could sit up here and digress for about 20 minutes, but I think you know all of that already. He's a Super Bowl champion, a 3-time NFC Championship game quarterback, also, of course, Super Bowl Most Valuable Player, 9 playoff appearances, 7 NFC South titles, 2-time NFL Offensive Player of the Year, 13 Pro Bowls, 5 All-Pro teams, retired as the NFL's all-time leader in passing yards, and there's never been a more accurate passer in NFL history. He led this league 6 times in completion percentage over the course of his career in respective seasons. And as for awards, he's won them all. Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame, that'll happen this year, aside from the Saints Hall of Fame, the Art Rooney Award, the Walter Payton NFL Man of the Year Award, the NFL Comeback Player of the Year Award, thanks Dr. Andrews. Also the Bart Starr Award, the Bert Bell Award, the George Halas Award, the NFLPA Alan Page Community Award, and I guess that's probably enough. He's probably tired of me saying all of this. So with that, please welcome our lone inductee into the Saints Hall of Fame to be inducted later this year, number 9, Drew Brees. Drew?
All right. Well, first off, this is a tremendous honor. It's always great to be back in this building. Obviously, we're no strangers to New Orleans or to the Saints facility here. I feel like we're back here about 8 to 10 times a year. And in fact, if you're wondering why my boys' heads are wet right now, it's because they were in the whirlpool, hot tub, cold tub, playing hoops with the guys in the locker room and running around on the field. So this is like a second home, and it always has been. As I looked at the last 10 or so years of the inductees into the Saints Hall of Fame, it just brings back a rush of emotions and memories when I see so many teammates that I had the great blessing of being able to play with. Guys like Jonathan Vilma, offensive linemen like Jari Evans, who is walking the halls here as a coach now. Carl Nix, Lance Moore, Reggie Bush, Pierre Thomas, Jabari Greer, you name it. So many, and so many to come. I imagine, as I think the 15 years that I spent here from 06 to 2020 were 15 of the best years of my life. My wife, Brittany, and I were embraced by this city, by this organization, by Mrs. Benson, and by the unbelievable staff that, it's so great to just, I think, see the consistency, throughout this building. So many familiar faces, so many people that have been such a huge part of the success around here, not just on the field, but off the field and in the community. And that's why I feel like this organization has always been the standard bearer and setter for all of professional sports when it comes to the connection that a team has with its community. And I think we recognized that very quickly back in 2006 when we first arrived here. And we hoped that we would be able to make an impact, not just on the field, but off the field. Never in our wildest dreams could have imagined that it would be 15 years and then we'd raise a family here, and all four of our children would be born in New Orleans and consider themselves New Orleanians. And now all of a sudden I have a son who's talking about wanting to go to LSU. So go Tigers. This is a tremendous honor, and I am so grateful to everybody here, and forever will be. Once a Saint, always a Saint. And I will be living and dying with the team every Sunday, as most of you will as well. And media, thank you guys for all your contributions through the year, and thank you for always being so supportive of us. And take it easy on us when times are tough, because we'll always face adversity, but that's where we come back stronger. I think we've been able to prove that time and time again. So I'll open it up to questions if the media, if you guys have anything.
We're doing microphones now. Obviously, there might be other Hall of Fames to come, but this being the Saints Hall of Fame, since you had a choice to make at one point in your career and decide where you wanted to go, does this mean something special thinking back to that decision-making period back then?
Yeah, we've told this story many times. The injury that forced me to leave San Diego. Never thought. Went through so many ups and downs there. I thought I was going to be the starting quarterback for the San Diego Chargers forever. Felt like I'd kind of paid my dues there and been through a lot and fought through multiple quarterback competitions and getting benched a few times, and then bringing in people to take my job, and all those things, right? And I'm so grateful for that, because I think that molded me in so many ways, and it really helped me develop a lot of great mentors that became mentors for me even to this day, but certainly throughout my career. But point being, I thought I was going to be there forever, and all of a sudden it felt like it was taken away from me in the blink of an eye when I had my right shoulder dislocation in the final game of the 2005 season, going into an off season where I didn't have a contract. And to say things looked bleak and were pretty scary, I take myself there at times, and I really thought I might not ever play football again. And that was to feel like your dream was just totally being ripped away from you. And best thing I ever did was go see Dr. James Andrews in Birmingham, Alabama, and have him look at me and say, "Hey, it's bad, but we'll get through it." And I'm not even sure the extent of the injury until I get in there and take a look at it. So as I was being put under, the anesthesia, getting ready for surgery, I still had no idea what the future held, or the extent of the injury. And I'll never forget waking up from or just coming out of the anesthesia in the recovery room, and I'm looking at Brittany just going, where's Doc? Did they have to cut me? Did they have to cut me? I was saying all kinds of crazy stuff, and Dr. Andrews comes in and basically says if I did that surgery 100 times, I couldn't do it as well as I just did it. And I said, well, that's what you want to hear. But he said, but now it's on you, and it's an 8-month process before you're going to be able to throw again, and it's going to be 2 years before you feel normal again. I said, well, what does that mean? He said, you'll find out. So that was pretty daunting, pretty daunting. And still at that point, it's okay, well, we did the surgery, but it doesn't mean that anybody's going to be interested, right? Especially since free agency was only 2 months later in March of 2006. And, I'm 8 weeks post-op. I can't do anything other than just lift my arm to here, right? So when Mr. and Mrs. Benson come and pick me up, and me and Brittany in Birmingham, Alabama, and all I can do is barely shake their hand and do this. I don't know how much confidence that instilled in them at the time, but to say that that our visit here was nothing short of amazing. It was divine. From the moment of, look, we pull up to the Saints facility here, and half of it was still taken over by the National Guard, right? So they sneak us in the back door. The window tint in the limo as we were driving from the airport to here was the darkest window tint ever. Like, you couldn't see out of it. And they told me, well, we just want you to have some privacy. No, they didn't want me to see what that drive with all the devastation. But, we show up here at the facility and have a chance to meet everyone, and Sean Payton immediately gets on the blackboard and starts drawing up my offense from San Diego. And I said, well, wait a minute, I thought we ran the West Coast offense, and that's your style. He said, no, we're building this thing around you. I said, so we're taking everything that you're good at, and we're going to put you in the best position to succeed, and we're going to do this together. And so right off the bat, it was like, wow, I thought first-time head coach, coming in with all this pressure and all these expectations and so much to prove. I thought it would have been a my way or the highway approach all the way, but it was much different. He was making it a collaboration, and he instilled a ton of confidence in me right away. Going to eat at Emerald's restaurant, where we got to sit in the kitchen, and Emerald's whipping us up a meal, basically saying, hey, you sign here, I'm gonna cook your first meal in your house. He hasn't done that yet. He still owes me, Emerald, if you're listening. But to a person, everyone who came up to us at that time said nothing about the New Orleans Saints. They said everything about, thank you for wanting to be a part of this city. Thank you for considering us. We would love to have you. So you just felt the culture, you felt the love, you felt what is, makes this place so unique. And then, of course, Sean driving us to Mandeville to show us the house that he's building, saying, hey, look, there's places to live, you can raise a family, it's not all devastated, and then getting lost in Lakeview and, stopping the car because we couldn't drive around the tugboat in the middle of the road. But that was when we felt the true calling that we belonged here, and not many opportunities in life do you get a chance to be a part of something so much greater than yourself. And it was about resurrecting one of America's greatest cities, and we had a chance to be a part of that, and we're forever changed.
Drew, you and your family made a ton of contributions to the city. Is there a particular achievement or anything that's attached to that you feel was most impactful to you?
There's so many incredible memories. Honestly, the best memories were the people and my teammates. I felt like we had something really, really unique here. You always, you talk about, how do you build a great team? Well, you got to have a great core, right? And when you have the great core, that's what helps define the culture, right? And then in every team, hey, you have pieces that come and go, right? Role players or this or that, or, needs here and there, and they just assimilate into the culture, but the culture is built by the core. And I always felt like we just had an incredible core, right? Like, when I think back to the receivers that I had early in my career here, Marcus Colston, Robert Meacham, Devery Henderson, Lance Moore, like those four guys for 7 straight years. Like, when has that ever happened anywhere else? Those four core, and like the way that they complemented one another, and the way they set the tone with the way that they practiced, and just like everything about them, like they inspired us all, and certainly made my job a lot easier. Like our offensive line, like I have this like my favorite. One of my favorite pictures in my office, besides that of my kids and my daughter and my wife, playing sports or what have you, is this picture of our line from the Super Bowl, right? And I'm just sitting there going down the line, and I'm like, man, Bushrod, Nix, Goody, Jari, Stinch, and then Streif as our jumbo tight end at the time. Obviously was a mainstay as a starter here for a long time too, but I mean, those guys inspired me every day. And I wouldn't have been able to accomplish any of those things without them, and it certainly would not have been as enjoyable without them either. Like, they were the reason that, I wanted to walk in here every day and be my very best, was for guys like that.
Drew, one of the classic photos of all time was you winning the Super Bowl and embracing your son up after the Super Bowl. Can you relive that a little bit for us?
Well, I can't do it anymore.
What's that like for you?
Yeah.
It was a great time.
It's funny the visions that you have. And look, I was a sports junkie growing up, right? Like, that's all I wanted to do. Me and my younger brother Reed, just outside, out in the yard, playing sports, denting our parents' garage with tennis balls, pitching to each other, breaking the neighbors' windows, don't get any ideas, but just playing ball, and, everything was a competition, and everything was visualizing what we hoped to come, right? So you're on the basketball court, it's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, right? You're making the game winner, you're sitting there at the free throw line, having to drain 2 free throws to win the game, or, Ted Williams, 3-2 count, bottom of the ninth, right? Like, all that. And so one of those visions was Super Bowl champion, and I'm going to be holding my son. So when it actually happens, it's hard to put into words.
Congratulations. Could you maybe put how you regard it now as a unanimous, as soon as you're eligible, in the context of how you felt you may have been underestimated coming out of high school, coming out of college, coming out of surgery, and so forth, and kind of weave that together as what's the moral of that story and how you feel about it?
Yeah, so I think I am a product of not getting what I want. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, had you asked me what I wanted when I was in high school, and I was an athlete, I was playing football, basketball, baseball, like the order of the sports that, had you asked me, what was my favorite, I would have said baseball, basketball, football, right? So if you asked me what I aspired to be, I'm going to be the next Ted Williams, right? Like, I'm going to go on and play college baseball, play in the pros, play baseball, right? Football was something I did because I love the game. I love to compete. But really it's because I lived in the state of Texas, and that's what we did. We played football, and it was a bit of a family tradition. So that, number one, never thought I'd be necessarily a professional football player. Number two, when it did come time to, hey, all of a sudden, I'm starting quarterback for the varsity, and we're going on and winning a state championship, and I'm having a chance to play in college, and I want to stay in the state of Texas, right? But nobody in the state of Texas wanted me, right? So my only 2 offers were Purdue and Kentucky. And I chose Purdue, honestly, because first off, I felt when somebody first told me I was being recruited by Purdue, I thought it was Ivy League. So I didn't even know Purdue was in the Big Ten. I didn't know where Purdue was. West Lafayette, Indiana, by the way, in the middle of the cornfields. I'll never forget my first visit to Purdue University in the middle of January. All I heard was how beautiful the campus was, red brick buildings. John Purdue owned a red bricking company, so the charter was that all the buildings on campus would be red brick. I show up and there's like 15 feet of snow on the ground. I can't even see these buildings, right? Can't even see my hand in front of my face, right? It's snowing so hard. So I'm sitting here going, what am I doing? I'm a Texas kid. I'm supposed to be playing baseball, and now I'm coming up here to the middle of the cornfields to play football. But I chose Purdue because of its academic reputation, because in my mind I was thinking, I'm coming up here to get a great education. I'll go off in the business world and make a career out of that. had success at Purdue University, expected to be a first-round pick, because I think in your mind, I think that's how you're kind of judging your own value, is the higher I get drafted, the better the better that people perceive me. At the end of the day, it's not about that. It's about ending up in the right place. And I fall to the second round, but I go to the San Diego Chargers. It was the best place I could have gone, because I had a chance to play behind Doug Flutie and play for Marty Schottenheimer. Two incredible influences on my career. I wouldn't be the player that I became without them. And then going through all the adversity that I went through there. Never would have expected being benched so many times, or having people brought in to take my job, or having then to suffer the injury, which then led me here, right? So all of these examples of me not getting what I wanted, and yet it was molding me, it was strengthening me, it was turning me into who I was supposed to be, and it was extracting the best out of me. And it's what I try to tell these boys all the time, and tell the high school kids that I get a chance to coach and others, is that it's not supposed to be easy. It's meant to be hard, and you have to look at every bit of adversity as an opportunity. It's an opportunity to grow. It's an opportunity to learn, and it's, you know, our point A to point B is not God's point A to point B. You know, it's always going to be this, and it doesn't mean you're not going to get there, but you're going to get there when the time is right, and after you have had a chance to learn and grow and battle through that adversity. I always worried about guys who showed up in this building here and hadn't faced some adversity. It usually ended up being a tough road, and usually they didn't make it. It was the guys, and I think it's why we hit on so many undrafted free agents throughout, you know, our tenure here. You know, the guys like Lance Moore and the Pierre Thomases and others that, you know, they weren't drafted. They weren't highly recruited. They had to earn it every single day. They played with a chip on their shoulder. They never took it for granted, right? So I think I just got to that point where every day I woke up, I felt like I had something to prove. And I was motivated, inspired by the teammates that I had a chance to play with and for.
When did you start thinking about Hall of Fames? At what point in your career or your life did you start?
I still don't. I don't know. I just, maybe it's just the gratitude that I have in my heart for the opportunity to play. Like, the opportunity to play was enough. Because if you've ever experienced a moment where you truly feel like you're losing it, like it's being taken away from you, it changes you. And I really thought my career was over 5 years into it. I really thought I may never play again. Put it this way, I had an insurance policy on myself my last year in San Diego. And there came a moment after the surgery where I could have taken the insurance policy. The insurance policy was basically like I was going into the last year of a contract. Maybe I was due to have a big contract, and this was to insure a career-ending injury. So here I was facing a career-ending injury. And if I never played again, I could collect the insurance policy. And it was a good insurance policy. But it was like, so the point being is, like, I really thought that my career was potentially over. And when that happens, and then all of a sudden you just get a second chance or another opportunity, you just have so much gratitude in your heart. And honestly, I feel like gratitude is your secret weapon. Like, it makes you approach every day just that much more appreciative, that much more focused, that much more intentional. So that was the greatest thing that ever could happen to me.
Drew, you may or may not be aware, but your jersey is kind of officially retired here by the equipment staff. You and Archie Manning are the only two players. I mean, what does that mean to you that your legacy still kind of resonates here? And they say it's not just for your achievements on the field, but as much about how you treated them and everyone else in the building.
Hopefully we can get like a New York Yankees thing going here, where we're 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all the way up, all the single digits. But look, again, I think we're all a product of who came before us and the opportunities that we're given and the people that believed in us, and that's who we're accountable to. I say that to young people all the time, and even athletes in the locker room here. It's like, what are you accountable to? Like, that's how you're gonna conduct your daily routine and your daily habits, and that's who you're gonna end up being. Like, who in your mind are you reporting to? Because if it's just yourself, then you're gonna let yourself down every time. But if it's because you have a strong faith, or if it's because you feel indebted and responsible to the organization who gave you an opportunity, or to the teammates who come in and just fight it out every day to help you, to help this team, right? I mean, I loved walking in the equipment room here and hanging out with Bum and Corey and the fellas, right? Or in the training room. Like, those were the best laughs ever. People talk about the barbershop, man. How about the training room? The training room is, and what makes that is the people. And at the end of the day, that's who you become accountable to. You want to win championships for them. You want to make them proud. You want to prove them right.
Drew, you talk about your kids being New Orleanians now, and Brittany had a home in the community. Why was it important for you guys to be in New Orleans and to just like have a physical presence here?
Well, certainly with everything the city had been through when we first got here, we felt like, from what we heard just talking to members of the community and everyone, was that there had just been so many unkept promises, to the community by whoever. And I think right away we wanted to show that we were members of this community and we were going to follow through with everything we said we would do. And we again, this was a calling for us. We felt like the greatest thing we could do was win football games for this community, but more importantly, to help this community rebuild homes, rebuild lives, rebuild the culture. And at the same time, I'm rebuilding a career, rebuilding a shoulder. We're thinking about a family. It goes back to that advice that I was given when we first stepped foot in New Orleans, and that was, if you love New Orleans, it'll love you back. And we love New Orleans, and New Orleans loved us back.
Do you remember who gave you that?
I don't know. It's out there. It's in the universe.
Drew, obviously there's Super Bowls and record-breaking touchdown passes. Are there any lesser thought about moments that are just burned into your memory here from your time in New Orleans?
Well, how the NFL was able to schedule primetime games for every record-breaking moment is pretty impressive. I'd like to know who's behind that, what deal they have with whoever. All those moments are pretty amazing. Especially, I think, the career achievements, because you start thinking about all the people and all the teammates and all the coaches that had a hand in that. And quite honestly, like, you think about our fans, and every time I walk around the streets here and I've got somebody coming up to me saying, I've been a season ticket holder since, forever, right? So you can imagine, like, literally they're living every moment with you, right? The ups, the downs, but like, here's a funny one. So when we would watch film, and we're at our home game film from the Superdome, you had camera angles. You had one from the sideline, one from the end zone, but then they would flash to the scoreboard to show you the down and distance and time in the game, right? So you were kind of getting that quick flash to the scoreboard and then back down to the field as you're just literally sitting right across the room here, like, watching tape. And there was this guy, and I still have never met him. I would love to meet him. we called him Red because he had red hair. And Red, from 2006 until 2020 when I was here, Red had these season tickets that literally sat right behind the scoreboard. So we saw Red, and then all of a sudden Red has a little red. And then that little red is like a medium red, right? And then it's like a big red, right? And so it's like, man, we're watching Red's family just like grow here, you know? Like we're playing a board game or something. But like that's just a perfect example of like those moments. And there was probably countless others in the stands where this became something that they shared with their loved ones, and their families and their kids grew up in it, and now we've got lifelong Saints fans. That's the way it should be.
Andrew, this is kind of related to that. We never got a chance to talk to you after you retired because of everything that was going on in the world. Just curious, when you played that last game there, and there was 8,000 fans maybe in the Superdome. What was that experience like? Maybe even knowing that it was the last one, there was nobody there to process it.
Yeah. No, I'd say, I mean, it's just being perfectly honest, but I don't know if there's ever an easy way to leave the game, right? I mean, I guess unless you're just, lifting up the Lombardi Trophy and riding off into the sunset, which is what we'd all hope for, but certainly to have it be in a situation like that where you're not able to really be there with the fans and celebrate it with all those who are so important. I felt like there was a little bit of a lack of closure, and honestly, man, if my right arm was still working, I probably would have played another 3 years. My body feels great. My body could play, my right arm can't. And so, unfortunately, that's what kind of forced me to step away. And it was time too, but yeah, I try not to think about, like the glance back in the dome, because I wish it would have been with a packed house, and just like that energy that is so synonymous with the Superdome, and that I'll always remember, and that what we always fed off of, every game day. My image of the dome is much different than that last moment.
Drew, how seriously did you, there was talk about in 21 about potentially maybe coming back for a period of time. Like, how seriously did you consider that?
Very serious. Very. I'll just leave it at that.
What prevented it? Was it the arm?
Yeah. I mean, at the end, at the end of the day, it's like how capable, right? How capable am I to do the job, right? I mean, I would have run QB draws. I would have done whatever. I would have run some veer option. We would have pulled out all the stops. I was ready. Pull out the high school playbook. Yeah.
How's your arm now? I mean, can you throw now? Do you throw to boys?
I do throw. How do I throw, boys?
Lefty.
Look, I can drop a dime like 30 yards left-handed. Unfortunately, you need a little bit more than that to compete at this level. But yeah, I throw left-handed with the boys with everything. Anything below my shoulder, below the waist, so any racket sports, golf, that's fine. It's just when it gets up here, just a lot of wear and tear. And look, Dr. Andrews told me that. He said at some point, he's like, you're on the fast track to a degenerative shoulder. And so at some point, this will catch up with you. Like just all that wear and tear and all the work that was done. And, so it's like, because I used to use this term, prolong my prime. It was like, how long can I just prolong my prime, and then unfortunately there will be attrition at some point, and yeah, hung on as long as I could.
Drew, you've had a few opportunities to come back, obviously, as a broadcaster, and then these past couple of years on the sideline. feel kind of normal, or will it ever start to feel?
Yeah, I mean, look, like this game, I mean, I equate it like this, right? Like I retired at 42 years old, and I had played high-level football for 28 years, right? Four high school, 4 college, 20 in the pros, right? So 2/3 of my life was dedicated to being the best football player I could be, best quarterback I could be. Like every decision you make is in and around like those parameters. And like even, I mean, my wife knows that, right? I mean, like every decision you make, family vacation, like it's all predicated around, right? The training schedule, the recovery schedule, the practice schedule, the this, the that, right? So, you know, all of a sudden in 1 second, so like it's there. It'll always be a part of my life. Like, and I have a passion for football. I still love the game. I love to coach the game. I love to watch the game. I love to analyze the game. Like that'll never leave. And so then it's like, okay, well, where's the outlet, right? And every guy faces this, you know, like, we got Jari in here coaching now, right? You know, we got Josh Hill scouting now, right? So it's like, it's always there, and you gotta like, you know, feed the flame somehow. And like for me, I worked for NBC for a year, and honestly, I had such a good time. It was awesome. The only problem was just the travel schedule. I traveled for 26 consecutive weekends, and you know, missed all my kids' games. So I'm like, well, you know, I can't do that. That lifestyle doesn't work right now. And the thing that I wanted to do most, that I felt like I could bring the most value in, was broadcasting NFL games, and it was the thing I had the least opportunity to do, right? I was able to do a little bit of college at Notre Dame, just 2 NFL games broadcasting that were 8 weeks apart, and then the studio stuff, right? But man, I love the game, and I would love to broadcast NFL games, you know, at some point. Again, I think I could be the best at it. But otherwise, coaching, I love coaching my boys, love coaching the high school kids, love coaching 7-on-7, love being a mentor for guys. I probably had 5 NFL quarterbacks reach out to me this offseason just to talk. Right, to talk about concepts, to talk about the situation that they're in, just to talk strategy, to talk life, to talk balance, you know, life balance. So I love being in that role. I love being in that role. And I hope that's, you know, I always want to be a resource for the next generation. I feel like that's part of our responsibility. You know, we wouldn't be where we are without having those guys along the way. And now the baton is passed to us to be that next generation of mentors for the guys that are coming up. All good? Anybody else? All right. Thank you all.
Thank you, Drew. Our other honoree this year, we have our Joe Gemelli Fleur Award, which is presented annually to someone who has contributed to the betterment of the New Orleans Saints organization and has displayed undying loyalty to the organization. And it runs the gamut. The honorees have covered an enormous number of different avenues over the years, and this year that certainly is applicable because the gentleman that is going to receive the award this year is entering his 27th year working for the Saints organization on game days, and he's handled press box announcing duties since 1998. Of course, he's done PA for many other athletic events, be it high school football, New Orleans Zephyrs, New Orleans Pelicans, whatever it's been. He's been there, and he's done it in extremely professional fashion. He's made an impact as well in the community because he's an outstanding teacher. I would know that because he taught my son at Christian Brothers and had done an outstanding job there for decades as we speak. Hope he doesn't go away, although he's probably getting smart and getting closer to that as we speak. Extremely talented, gifted, athletic family. His brothers, extremely accomplished, one of whom is here today. Wonderful family, a great coaching father, everything imaginable, but more than that, somebody that's clearly deserving of this award and has contributed to the New Orleans Saints for such a long period of time in outstanding fashion. Our Joe Gemelli Fleur Award recipient for this year will be Doug Moreau. Doug, come on up.
Kenny, thank you. Thank those who voted and put me in this position. It's certainly a tremendous honor for me. You know, not only am I entering my 27th year for announcing for the Saints, this will be my 51st 52nd or 53rd year of announcing overall sports here in New Orleans and in Louisiana. I started when I was 10 years old. 10 going on 11, 1973. Drew, you weren't even born yet. You know, so to not only do that, but I look at this not just an honor of getting this award as an announcer for the Saints and contributing to the Saints, but I also look at it as something special, being born with a physical condition, and that I use that as a message, that it doesn't matter how you're born. If you want something, go do it. Go after it. Kind of funny listening to Drew talk about his arm and the way my arms were born and the experimental surgeries that were performed on me at 2 years old. You know, being put in cast at 10 days old. All those things. So, and Kenny talks about me being a teacher. You know, so yes, I taught his son. I taught Kevin Mangum's son as well. And Kevin's been a part of this organization for a very long time. And to me, I developed friendships. You know, this stat crew of the New Orleans Saints, one of the best in the country, if not the best. The things I've learned from Gail Latoul, Leon Latoul, Bob Remy, those guys are magic, what they do. And for me to be able to stand here, I don't stand here in my own name. I stand here with all the other names. You know, when I look at that list and to say, gee, my name's there with Al Hurt, the ultimate New Orleanian, that's amazing. And not only that, but to say my year is with arguably the greatest New Orleans Saint to play the game. I mean, there's no doubt. When Sean and Drew came into this city, the city was devastated. Let's face the facts. Those two men lifted this city up in an amazing way. It brought us together. When my friend Lenny Van Gilder called me and said that Greg Bensel wanted to know, who's your press box announcer for Tulane, which I was doing at the time. And when Lenny said it was me, and Greg said, oh, I don't need to ask anybody else. The job's his if he wants it. And I'm honored for that. You know, when people put trust in the work that a person does, and the Saints have put that trust in me. Not only that, but the friendships. I mean, every off-season, I hear from Justin Massione. He sends me thank you cards for the work I do during the season. Drew used the word gracious and gratitude. And, you know, that's how I feel. This is a humbling thing for me. Very, very humbling. So I can't imagine anybody to be put in here. There's so many people who should be in this spot right now. And the fact that my name came up, my work was selected, and what people have done for me. You know, when I walk into the press box to do pregame work, and the cleaning crew smiles and pats me on the back. The members of the security, always, they look out for me. People serving the food in the press box. Hey, let us carry this to your seat. You know, we'll take care of you. Well, they do, and it's a wonderful feeling. You know, the comments that sports writers have made towards me of, thank you for your work. And, you know, one of the things that I often say is that, no, thank you for having me here and listening And I know that some have said, well, you make our work easier. Well, I do that for a purpose. I love sports. You know, I grew up around sports. Kenny had talked about my two brothers, David and Darryl. Well, David was the first name I ever announced in sports back at old Wesley Barrows Stadium when he was playing in the Babe Ruth Baseball League. I announced for his Jesuit teams for a number of years. I've announced at UNO, and I've announced, as Kenny said, for the Zephyrs. I do the high school football championships. And I try to tell people all the time, it should not matter what level of sports that you do something for if you love it that much. And I certainly do. There was a game after Katrina, Saints game on a Sunday. And I keep looking at my watch because I've got a 4 o'clock start at Pan American Stadium of Booker T. Washington's game to get there. And I got there just before kickoff. You see humorous things at all different levels. I mean, I saw a kickoff at a high school game that didn't pass the line of scrimmage, but it went into the stands. Those are the kind of things that you mark in your brain, that you remember, you have fun with. I've left the Sugar Bowl many a nights at midnight and gotten home at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, only to go teach the next day. And the principal will say, go home. I'm like, no, this is my job, this is my responsibility. I'm gonna do it because I have the passion for it. Just like Drew talks about his own passion. Not only is it the passion for football, it's passion for family. So thank you. Thank you for having me, for making me a part of this. Any questions?
A little bit of a lighter one, but like, what's the one name that gives you cold sweats thinking about having to say thank you for the crowd?
So last year, Washington was in the Sugar Bowl, this past game. Did you see their roster?
Oh,
yeah. I practiced for about 2 weeks when I got that roster. And I sat at home going, oh my gosh, I'm glad it's Christmas vacation from school, because I can spend hours sitting at my table and just going over name after name. I still have that roster on my phone just to look at it once in a while because of that very reason. But I can tell you one time with a Saints game that I made a mistake. I practiced the name, I went over it, and when the first pass that went to this receiver, I screwed up the name. TJ Hushmanzada. TJ Hushmandadu is what I said. And the writers turned around and looked at me, goes, you've been practicing. How'd you mess that up? You know, but as a teacher, I go back in my classrooms, and when they ask me about, oh, what went on in the game? How'd you do? I tell them, like any coach at any level of sports, football, basketball, baseball, limit your mistakes. I get mad at myself if I make 4 mistakes that I recognize. Sometimes the media doesn't recognize it, that it's my cause. If I make that mistake and I make more than 5, I'm angry. I don't want anybody calling me. I don't want anybody talking with me. And I still feel this way now, more than 50 years of announcing. Don't make mistakes. Limit your mistakes. You're going to make them. We all make mistakes. Did you take that lens cap off? It's still on?
Yeah.
Figures I'd get that kind of a picture, right? But it's something like that when you ask. Anything else? Again, I can't thank all of you enough. And Drew, thank you for everything you've done.
we're going to get Doug and Drew up here to take a couple of pictures, and then add Mrs. Benson as well. So if you guys will get together here for a few pictures. Otherwise, want to thank everyone for being here. Appreciate you, and again, continue to support the Saints in every fashion possible.